Bear Down, Bears fans, another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Another day of training camp as we have me and Courtney up here. Very excited. Listen, today was kind of just preparation, but it was a good day from the first team offense. We got to talk about that. The offensive line, Courtney. At this point, you got to say interesting with the left tackle competition. Theo Benedict working his way up, the Canadian Eagle, ladies and gentlemen, working his way up the bracket. We got to talk about Caleb Williams and this offense as a whole. All that and more coming up on today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Today's episode, of course, brought to you by the Advantage Dealer Group. Find your next Chevy, Toyota, or Acura and drive off in under 60 minutes, so they'll make your first car payment. Also brought to you by the Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana, Las Vegas style gaming, just 30 minutes from Soldier Field, exit 6 right off I-80 94. 16, 17 days at this point. Yeah. Courtney, how are you feeling? It's been a long camp.
It's been a grind, but I feel like the element of training camp that's kind of new right now is what you were mentioning at left tackle. Like usually it's the slog of, all right, the position battles are starting to slowly wear down. Yeah. You're figuring out who's probably going to win a job. And then all of a sudden Theo Benedict enters the chat during Wednesday's practice at left tackle. And this has been a very buzzworthy item for the Bears the last couple of days, because you'd think at this point, we're 3.5, 4 weeks into training camp, that this is where you don't add to the competition, even though you're always competing. Coaches are always going to say that, but you try to use the guys that you have instead of looking outside of those guys, unless there's a reason to do that. So I'm very curious to hear what Ben Johnson will say on Friday ahead of the joint practice with the Buffalo Bills about Theo Benedict getting a bulk of first team reps the last 2 days at left tackle and what that does to the rest of the competition. Obviously, it's hard to keep track of everybody, because it's not like Theo Benedict gets the reps in the first 11-on-11 period, and then it's Braxton Jones getting all the reps at left tackle during the second 11-on-11 period with the first team. Yeah. They're switching in between series. Yeah. Still 3.5 weeks into this, that has been their MO. And it complicates things from a perspective of trying to figure out, all right, who's ahead? Is this just a smokescreen? Is this some sort of way to light a fire under the two guys you thought were going to be in competition for the job between Braxton Jones and Ozzie Trapillo? But you start to hear comments from Dan Rochar, their offensive line coach, who did not sugarcoat anything. And I think that was very refreshing to hear from an O-line coach in this building. And I think they really are trying to find the answer is not there right now, and they are trying their darnest to find it. And if it takes a fourth guy entering the mix, then so be it. But that is not something that I've been used to seeing covering a training camp before.
Yeah, listen, I'm hearing Dan Richar's comments and then seeing the reaction. You have to think this is one. Dan's a vet in this game. He's not just going to come out and just say something. And it seems like none of the coaches are just saying something that Ben Johnson isn't feeling. Clearly, they're not comfortable with where the tackles are right now. And he said when he was talking about Braxton Jones, I'm not just sitting here talking out the side of my neck like it's not good enough in game. Yes, he had some good moments in practice, but it's not good enough in game. And I think what's interesting is we also heard yesterday about Darnell Wright having some issues with focus, having some issues with effort. I'm not a professional athlete. I asked Tommy Waddle. He said the only two things you can control as a professional athlete are your focus and your effort. Everything else you have to go out there and build on and play with, right? Like you see Ozzie go to the right side, Courtney. We're seeing Theo Benedict get first team snaps to start, first team snaps in situational. Do the Chicago Bears have a tackle problem in general, not just a left tackle problem?
I wouldn't say it's a problem, but I do think that they're not happy with, if somebody was good enough right now, they would have won the job. Fair enough. If it took 2 weeks, if it took 1 week, if there was somebody who was head and shoulders above everybody else, that guy would have won the job. And you wouldn't have just kept competition and kept the door open just to keep it open, because the goal of an offensive line in training camp is to get as many reps as possible. So there aren't pre-snap errors. So there aren't penalties. So there aren't false starts. So there aren't, delay of games, all the things that, oftentimes we're blaming the quarterback for, saying, well, why is Caleb Williams in the first team unit struggling here? Well, if you have that left tackle spot solved, I would imagine that the more reps that that starter gets with the other four guys, the less penalties there are, because it's supposed to be the cleanest operation. It's your best guys up there. I get that. But I think that you got to give him credit for not willing to just go with the answer that felt the most convenient when they're like, it's not good enough right now between Ozzie Trapillo and Braxton Jones.
Yeah.
And what Dan Rochar said, I was like, whoa.
It was shocking.
You look back at Friday.
I love this coaching staff.
He said that it was during one-on-ones. He's like, I told him I was really happy with how he played. He played his length. That's a guy that we can win with. And then Sunday, 2 days later, he reverts back to form, more or less. Like, that's not good to say that, and not good to hear that if you're Braxton Jones. Obviously, you can use it two different ways. You can either be like, yeah, this is as good as it's going to get. I know that I have trouble with my base and really narrow base and handling a bull rush, all of those things. And even today, you're still seeing some of those issues that have been the issues for him for 3 years during team drills. You can either just kind of be like, all right, yeah, this is as good as it's going to get. Or maybe it does light a fire under him in a way that, gets better competition out of him. I don't know. I just think that this is a strategy I have not seen where this late in camp, you've got coaches willing to tinker with a combination and add somebody who was not in the mix at all. Somebody who can play a number of different spots, but throwing him into the left tackle mix. And it's not like he's getting second or third team reps. He's getting starters reps. And in the 2-minute drill as well.
And
today.
The operation looked good, honestly. And I'll say this, Courtney, and here's where I don't know what Ozzie's going to be. I thought Ozzie actually did a pretty good job in the Miami game. I thought he mirrored well. He got beat a couple of times, but you expect that from a rookie. But it truly feels like this is a losing situation for Braxton Jones. And it's almost like Ozzie and Karan have been taken out of the equation. Theo Benedict getting snaps with the ones, Braxton going with the twos today. Karan's with the threes, and he has not moved from the threes over the last couple of practices. Ozzie has spent the entire week on the right side of the line, and we're seeing Braxton Jones go. There is no depth chart, of course, but we're seeing him get more time in with the twos than I think he is with the ones over the last couple of days. Like, you may be heading for a Theo Benedict number one left tackle situation to start the season, which is a conversation we weren't ready to have. But looking at yesterday's practice, one-on-one versus Dio Adangbo, he false starts because he's trying to beat Dio to the spot. Then Dio just throws him to the ground. Today, gets absolutely devastated a couple of times by Dio Adangbo in the pass rush. And no pads today, so you do have that caveat. There were pads on yesterday. But it just truly feels, Dan Rochar said all of this before we went out to practice. And then you saw yesterday's performance and you saw today's performance. I don't know if he is the answer, and maybe they know it with how open this coaching staff is.
And I think the idea was you have 40 games of starting experience. You should be ahead of everybody else. But you go back to what Ben Johnson said day one, that sure, experience should matter, but this is a clean slate approach. They weren't going into this saying, yeah, it's Braxton's job to lose. I mean, they'd never say that publicly, but you've never gotten that impression that everybody's not on equal playing field to start. Like, in theory, you would think that, but they've shown you by the way that they've rotated guys in, and it's hard to tell. Like, again, like, it's not like you get one series with the first team, the other person gets the series with the second team, then you flip flop. They're switching in the middle of series. They're getting like a couple plays each, and it's hard to I think establish a rhythm if you're an offensive lineman or really any player in that circumstance. But they're telling you that it's not good enough right now. And that's okay if you can at least call it out and find the right mix, and maybe adding Theo Benedict, even if he doesn't win the job. Because if we're looking at it realistically, wouldn't that be like an insane long shot? All of a sudden this guy comes in, you just drafted somebody in the second round that you thrust into the left tackle competition right away.
Is a right tackle.
And that's why, I mean, he is getting reps at right tackle right now because they're cross training him. That is something Dan Rochar said, because it's been left tackle the whole time. And they want to get him some rep. I mean, if he is your swing tackle in year one, that's a great
100%. You that's a successful hit
for sure. But it is just interesting now where clearly he's not done something enough to be like, all right, Braxton, we've reached our ceiling with him. Ozzie, you're ready to go. Like, he's not getting any left tackle work at all the last 2 days. No. Like, that's I don't want to say it's concerning. I don't know if it's concerning. It's just it's eye-opening to see something like that.
Is the more likelihood that this truly is just a week where you want to get Ozzie some work on the right side, or that he's out of the left tackle competition right now?
I would imagine it's more of the, I guess, whichever order you said it in, because my brain just
Trying to get him on the
malfunctioned.
right side.
Yeah, trying to get him on the
Yeah.
right side. They said that. Like Dan Rochar said, we want to get him some work on the right side. That's where he played for the majority of his Boston College career. That's where he, was dominant. He had 5 pre-snap penalties in 3 years. That's not a lot.
Yeah.
I've seen 5 pre-snap penalties sometimes in one practice.
We saw it yesterday. We saw 6 yesterday between the 1s and the 3s.
But it's, I would imagine that I think this speaks more on Braxton Jones than it does on Ozzie, if that makes sense, just based on the people you're inserting into this, the fact that you're 3.5 weeks in, does not feel like they're any closer to an answer when they should be. And I know they said they're comfortable taking this thing all the way to the finish line. That's great, but you probably should know sooner rather than later. And in tomorrow's joint practice, that's the second best, maybe the best defense in the NFL. I think Denver is, but that's a really, really good defense and a really good test. I mean, if you would think, knowing what we know now, there's 4 guys in the mix in this left tackle competition that's become like a viral thing for this team. Based on how you handle tomorrow, that should whittle things down further to where you're not like prolonging something that should probably be decided by now.
Well, you would think so, because and this is why I thought we would have, this guy is in the lead. He is the answer by now. And I get they're trying to make sure that you make the right decision. I'm not telling you to rush the decision at all. But this is a defense that's very similar to what you're going to face throughout the season. You start off versus Detroit with Aiden Hutchinson, or you start off versus Minnesota with the dogs they have on the line up there. You've got Aiden Hutchinson week 2. You got Micah Parsons coming here week 3. Like, it's not like anybody's going to get a break defensive line, offensive line matchups here. So I would have thought this would have been the joint practice. This would have been the week where you go, we're going to face a lot of defenses like this. We need to have an answer
ready to go. Yeah. And I mean, clearly you got to give them credit. The fact that they're not forcing an answer and saying we need more time to figure it out.
The forced answer would be Braxton, I would think.
Yeah. I mean, it would be
or Ozzie. But
they're telling you there's flaws in both guys' games right now.
Yeah.
Probably the inexperience factor for Ozzie. And with Braxton, it's all the things that we've talked about being holes in his toolbox effectively. And doesn't mean he can't be a serviceable backup. Doesn't mean he can't be a serviceable swing tackle. Hell, he might even win the job, and this could all be for naught. But like, very clearly, the coaching staff says there's an incomplete grade on both of these guys. Let's throw somebody else in the mix to see if that computes an answer that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
And to the point of Karan, I think he's out of it just
100%.
because like he missed a week of camp. I know Ben Johnson talked about it last week and said they're trying to get him back up to speed. His ramp up has been with the 3s though. He hasn't taken any second team reps at left tackle. So he's with the backups right now. And that's not a bad spot for him to be in, but maybe this injury, I forget what it was for him, lower body thing coming off of,
they gave us the hockey designation on that pretty much.
Yeah. Like a week of it. It just feels like that naturally kind of cost him his spot in the competition for where he's like truly content.
But it's felt like he was the 3 the entire time. It has not felt
long shot, I would
that
say.
he is like he's truly in the competition at any point. And I think what's scary now is as you go into this Bills joint practice, like you said, there is no good answer, right? Like Theo Benedict looked fine out there today. I thought he looked fine with the ones. There's no pads on, so you can't really push back. But if you want to say he had good footwork and he was mirroring well, like that's fine. The Bills are coming in tomorrow. They're not going to go no pads. They're going to be going after you. They're going to be trying to embarrass you on the field. You may be going through that practice and going, oh, we have nobody. And I think it truly is kind of the quarterback adage here. If you got 2 quarterbacks, you've got none.
You got 4 left tackles.
You got 4 left tackles, Courtney. I don't think we got one. I'm getting nervous right now.
No,
but it does make me feel better having the other 4, seeing that left tackle can be one where it feels like we can navigate through the season if we don't have a great left tackle right now.
Or if you have a situation where Braxton starts the season and then at some point it's the natural point wherever it is however it reveals itself to the coaching staff that they are ready to make the switch and make Ozzie their left tackle. I mean, I could see a scenario where that becomes the case, but you mentioned Minnesota. We know how much they blitz. Like, do you want to leave? You don't want to leave yourself vulnerable to, free rushers coming at you if you have the wrong left tackle in there. So I feel like now you have a good chance against a Sean McDermott defense that has stars up front.
Yeah.
That they're going to be getting after your guys. I just find it hard to believe that you're not going to have some sort of answer after this weekend. So that includes the joint practice and then the game on Sunday to then move forward and not introduce like somebody else into the mix.
Who's the fifth? Who do we got left? We got Canadian Eagle. Who else could we throw out there in left tackle? Is Nate Davis there? No, I'm kidding. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Let's keep this thing moving along. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. We got to talk about the practice today, which I do think is interesting because, of course, no pads, so you can't take a ton away from it. But this week overall, the first team offense and Caleb Williams has looked really good when the play gets off.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like they're incredibly efficient. I think that Caleb has really linked up with Rome. His connection with Olamide has been massive throughout the entire
last
camp.
2 days, really.
And it left me feeling like, wow, if once the play is off, these guys are incredibly successful and efficient. The big problem, though, yesterday, 6 pre-snap penalties between the first team and the third team offenses. And it seems like it's the same things that continue to pop up. There was a stretch there I talked about yesterday where we had false start, illegal formation, fumble on the crack toss to DeAndre Swift that goes back.
That he didn't even run
I don't know. They just blew that play dead. Off of that, though, today, again, no pads. Almost no penalties, no pre-snap issues, nothing, and the offense looked phenomenal. Where do you feel like we're at in that process? Does it feel like we're getting better, or was today just a good day?
I felt like the last 2 days for Caleb and you can't say operation without including the pre-snap stuff because the play has to get off without a flag being thrown. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. So it's like the connection that he is forming with Roma Dunze. Terrific.
Yeah.
That's not even hyperbole. Like seeing, the red zone work that they had yesterday and then today to set up that situation where they spiked the ball with 1 second left to then kick a field goal in the 2-minute drill. And yesterday ended on
it was
a field
truly
goal
perfect.
too.
It was perfect situation.
Caleb's playing fast in those moments.
Yeah.
He's not having to overthink things. He's finding his go-to guy, and his go-to guy is developing into your number one receiver on this team. And that's a good thing that they know that. Rome is, if you have to rank them in order, I'd say Caleb's the most important player on the team. Rome's number 2. I really believe that.
I'll keep Drew Dalman up there, but
for sure, the center's always going to matter. But
I'll keep Drew Dalman up.
What Rome has meant to this passing game,
yes,
and the role that he's coming into is, it's really important to see that consistently from a day-to-day thing. And then same thing with Zacchaeus yesterday, the 3 catches he made in the 2-minute drill to set up the field goal. That's all good from Caleb. And I think that he's playing with more confidence in those moments.
Yeah.
I am really looking to see, can you play with that level of speed? Can you play with that level of confidence? Find your guys, hit some tight window throws, trust that your receivers are going to make a play. And can you get there without anything happening prior to the snap where the play is blown dead and you're not just going through the motions because it's practice? Tomorrow's going to be huge because you're going to get unscouted looks. That's going to happen. That's what happened last week against the Miami Dolphins, where Anthony Weaver's giving him looks that he hasn't seen before. He doesn't know where he's hot. He doesn't know where the pressure's coming from in certain circumstances. You think back to that low red zone period where he took, I think, 2 sacks.
It would have been 2 sacks, and on one of them you hear.
And then of course
was it Mike? Who was one screaming? One of the safeties was screaming. He doesn't know what he's looking at. And it was just like, oh.
That's what I don't want to see tomorrow.
Yeah.
I want to see the idea that he's going to process faster week to week. I don't know if you're going to see something that's that tangible, but I need in order for these 2 days to count, really to count, I think you need to see that translate to Friday's practice. And I'm sure that sounds simple in theory, but these are 2 good days. He's quietly had a good week this week outside of Monday's practice, which I wasn't here for, but after hearing about, how sloppy it looked,
ball hitting the ground,
ball getting on the ground a lot.
Yeah,
there wasn't any of that the last 2 days outside of that, the fumble that Swift.
Fumble to Swift. I would say that end period where OZ kind of saved them.
Yeah, and then DJ dropped the one to hit him in the chest, and he dropped it. There hasn't been as much of that.
Yeah.
So I think operationally, from when they actually get the play off, it's looked a lot cleaner, and it's looked like he's a lot more decisive in those moments. So maybe that is the coaching, and he's grasping it, and like all the things that Ryan Poles, that Ben Johnson, that Declan Doyle are telling us about. It's coming along because we're starting, like, eventually they're going to start to pull back a little bit. They're giving him everything right now. Feels like he's hitting a level of comfort with all of the information that
Yeah.
he's getting.
Yeah, 100%. And even, there are moments where the play breaks down and then Caleb has to be the magic man and we all sit there and we go sack on our paper, but we
in
know
reality,
in
it's
game
like he could get out of it. Like, that's the hard thing with a quarterback like him. But I I really feel like he is, in moments, shown us step up in the pocket, make a throw. Like,
yeah.
in test your limits
That
right
Rome
now.
throw today in
Yep.
situational was beautiful. It truly was. I know Rome's going to be sitting down right there. The ball has to meet him the second he turns around. You saw Caleb step up in the pocket as the pressure went past him. He delivered the football on time. Rome caught the ball, even on the sideline pass that he made to Rome to where Rome had to get out of bounds there, but you end up having to spike it.
But I mean, hell, like, great situational awareness from everybody
100%.
for like Rome to realize, oh shoot, the clock's like still going because he didn't get out of bounds because Tyreek Stevenson tackled him in bounds. Like, that's on the quarterback, that's on the receiver, like, of how well they got to the line of scrimmage to spike it. I thought that was really good.
Yeah, they have looked perfect operationally once the play is run. I still live in what we saw last year, Courtney, where we're sitting there, 3 weeks in, and I get different coaching staff. They'll call you out on this staff, and that's something we didn't see last year. But we were, at the final week of preseason, I'm sitting there asking Matt Eberflus, hey, you guys are still false starting every other play. You going to fix that at any point? We'll have it by the time the season gets here. It'll be fine. I think the first play of the season last year was a false start. Like, that is something where those procedural things, you could be the best offense in the world. It doesn't matter if you're going 5 yards back the other
Doesn't
direction.
matter if you can't get the play off, like, right?
So
like, I know it sounds
that's
so
kind of
simple.
where I am concerned at right now,
sure.
but it looks really, really good. And I'll say this: there's a lot of people who are still very, trepidatious when it comes to Caleb. Caleb has mastered this, and he's helping people along. He's helping Luther Burden to figure it out. We're still seeing Luther Burden have some issues with where he's supposed to be in the offense, and Caleb trying to hide some of those, telling him, come in, go through in motion. He's starting to help the rest of the offense pick up the offense, and I think that's something we never really saw last year.
Yeah, because I don't think he felt comfortable. I think there was a level of assertiveness of, like, I'm not so comfortable in this offense. How can I tell somebody else, hey, this is where you need to be, if I'm not even sure myself if that's the right thing? And he talked about that last week of, not bossing guys around, but like being like, no, you need to be in this spot. And there was this play on a motion where he waved Luther Burden through. And that was an example of, I know what 10 other guys have to do.
Yeah.
And it's important that I exert that when I know it, to make sure that everybody can pick up on it in the moment. And I think it's a level of, I'm getting what they're giving me. Because remember, he said he wanted to bank all this information that, it's really challenging him, and being able to, like, recite this playbook backwards, that he knows where everybody needs to be. And, again, when you have a defense, like, imagine doing that tomorrow, when you have a defense that's going to give you unscouted looks that you have to account for, while also making sure everybody's in the right spot. If you have to kill the play dead because you recognize something right before the ball's about to be snapped, you're also accounting for the play clock. Like, there's like, you have to do like 13 things at once. And if he can start, like, routinely showing the mastery of the offense from the mental side of things, of recognizing things pre-snap, I think all of the laundry that you see on the field will eventually start to go down. And, Jonah Jackson talked about it today too. And Ben Johnson has talked about it. It's not just on the quarterback, but sometimes with the offensive line, kind of bring it back full circle to the left tackle competition, somebody hears something else. And I'm not at all saying all the penalties are on the left tackle.
No.
But, like, there is something about the
community. That false start yesterday was.
Yeah, there is something to be said about the chemistry and the communication of, like, all right, we know the call. Like, let's repeat the call in the huddle. We know it. Say it with your chest. Get it out there. And then everybody hears the call at the right time, and then you don't run into a situation like that. Like, it's not just on the quarterback.
Yeah.
And so I think he's got a lot at stake tomorrow. And honestly, I am looking forward to seeing the starters in the game. I still feel like tomorrow's practice will reveal a lot more about Caleb Williams operationally against a defense that, because they're not going to show much in the game. It'll be good for the operation in terms of pre-snap stuff in the game, working with the play clock, all of that. But tomorrow, when you're getting a defense that's going to try to throw the kitchen sink at you to throw you off, and they have a script for this in practice, and he's not obviously going to know the plays, but like he knows he's going to be in for it tomorrow. And I feel like how he handles tomorrow, if we're feeling the way we did about him against Miami, it's not a good thing. If it looks different, that means that he had good growth in a week's time.
Yeah, and you bring up the starters coming in. I talked about this yesterday. The thing I'm most excited to see is the pre-snap procedural things, because
which is wild. Like that's what we're talking about. Like, can they get to the line and can they get the ball off before the play
clock? Is this a better place
expires?
to be? I think this is a better place to be, because those are things that are fixable. I do have some of the concerns like you do, right? Like, to me, I asked Ben Johnson, his first question I asked him when I had a little lung butter. Y'all shut up in the comments. His first question I asked him was like, this team has consistently had false start issues. Mm-hmm. How are you going to fix that coming in here? And of course he gives we don't know what they did previously, but this is how. At this point, it is when Braxton Jones is still the guy that is false starting. Now Asa Trapillo getting in the mix a little bit on that as well. Or when it's Darnell Wright, or, when you start to look at the guys who have been here, Cole Kmet in illegal formation, you start to go, okay, like, maybe this is just who you are. And I know on the O-line, usually you see guys false start. Yurko has said this, when they're just not talented enough to beat the guy across from them. So they're trying to get an edge quickly enough in the game. And Dio Dangbo was killing Braxton Jones the other day, and you saw him false start a couple of times. Like, those are the moments where I want to see in game, when you've got a Sean McDermott defense standing across from you. Okay, are you still having these issues? Because if you are, at this point, if it's not Joe Thuney doing it, if it's not Jonah Jackson doing it, if it's not Drew Dahlman, not Caleb Williams in the play call, now we know it's you.
Mm-hmm. And that's a perfect opportunity against a different defense tomorrow to watch how it goes down. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing that part, because Bears fans will feel better if the report coming out of joint practice and the report coming out of the game is, even if the offense doesn't score a lot of points or doesn't lead a touchdown drive, whatever it is, obviously that's important. But the bugaboo has been all of the pre-snap stuff in training camp. If you can have like 1 or 2 days where there's like none of it and you're in pads, it's full contact, then you're going to be feeling pretty good about like they're finally getting it.
It'll also be interesting to see tomorrow if the Bears are still the aggressor, because Miami seemed a little upset when they left here. At least the beat reporters did. That was weird.
But they definitely set the tone defensively. And I feel like Buffalo's going to come in here. They're a veteran-led team. They are, constantly in the Super Bowl mix every single year. That's a different caliber of opponent. I mean, you've got the MVP coming to town. Yeah. And
I love that Jaquan didn't know who the MVP was, by the way.
I don't know if guys do. Like, I mean, even like Javon Dexter was talking about, like, are you excited to see, I don't know how the question was phrased, but like,
are you excited to go up against Josh Allen?
He's like, no, he's just another guy on the list. And I don't know if that's like, I mean, Josh Allen is a really good, the best quarterback in the NFL in the eyes of some people. So I'm curious to see how he handles tomorrow's practice and whether this defense will have as much luck getting after them like they did Miami last week.
Let's finish it out with this, Courtney, because we talk about the offense glowingly. We're very excited. It's been a great week. What have you seen from the defense this week? You feel like the defense is still moving in the right direction?
I do. I think that, they've got a lot of bodies moving around at corner right now because of some of the injuries. Kyler Gordon's not out there. Nick McLeod entering the mix at nickel. A couple plays, I believe it was yesterday it started. I noticed it mostly today. Yeah. I think it's just keeping eyes on these are camp bodies for like this 4 guys that they signed, and keeping an eye on, those injuries, about whether Jalen Johnson gets back at all. Doesn't sound like he'll get back at all for training camp, but there seems to be some optimism that maybe Kyler Gordon can. I just think that, up front, it's going to be different, because you have 5-man fronts. You've got a blitzing strategy that is just so much more than a team that I believe was like 22nd in blitz percentage last year. Like, they were 30th in pressure percentage because they're getting pressure on their 4-down linemen in Matt Eberflus's defense. It feels different there. 100%. And that's like how that affects the back end of the defense. Like, the whole rush and cover thing. And like now what you get to do, like those interception numbers should go up. Yeah. And that's something I want to see from tomorrow's practice, because there were 3 or 4 of them last week.
Yes. 3 interceptions, 1
and a fumble. And so I think that's good progress.
Yeah.
week to week to see that.
It's going to be interesting, and I've said this, Courtney. I think the surprise of this season for a lot of people may be how Tremaine Edmonds has been used
Yeah.
in Dennis Allen's defense. And again, we haven't seen the starters on the field; it's just in practice. But how Tremaine Edmonds has been used, who was supposed to be kind of the focal point of Matt Eberflus's defense. It feels like we may get into a season where we're talking about, oh, you may actually have to pay Tremaine Edmonds again and extend him and keep him around because he is flying around every single day. Of course, the big names, Jaquan and guys like that, we know what they can do. I talked with Al Harris yesterday, and he was like, the biggest surprise with Jaquan is the explosiveness.
Mm-hmm.
But Tremaine has just, he's been everywhere, blitz, interceptions, playing the pass in man coverage, playing the pass in some zone coverages. Like, he truly looks like the guy that we thought he was going to be when the Bears signed.
Yeah, and I think it shows you usage-wise. Like last year, you can probably attribute some of that to the position that he was put in.
Yeah.
And I know that they're not saying weak side middle linebacker who's playing both. They're cross-training them at both right now. Like, I think what he was brought in here to do will be. I know TJ was signed first that day, and then it was Tremaine Edmonds, like during free agency 2 years ago. But you're going to get your answer pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Of course, we got Sunday's game coming. We'll have you covered here. Also got joint practice tomorrow. Me and J-Mac, I think, will be in the building tomorrow for that one. And maybe a special guest joining us. We hope. We'll see.
Fingers
Keep
crossed.
that under wrap. Keep your fingers crossed. You never know with how practice goes nowadays.
Yeah.
We were supposed to have like 3-4 people at the podium, and they're like, they're not coming. Don't worry about it. But no, man, we appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. For Courtney Cronin, this your boy Pat the Designer. Back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love. Peace.